Okay, so today I'm going to go over my experiences in France and the likes and dislikes. So I have a list of likes and dislikes. France is a beautiful country, very beautiful. A lot of clean roads, nice areas to when you're driving down the highway, rest stops, very clean rest stops. They have some rest stops that are just for campers, um, truckers. They have picnic tables and restrooms, or just picnic tables, no restrooms. They have rest stops with restrooms, green space that you can actually walk your dog around in. And then they have the rest stops with restaurants, restrooms, gas stations. So it's a variety of rest stops, and there's no trash on the highway. Beautiful. It is beautiful. Great transportation system. France has a great transportation system with the trains, the charter buses, the trams. Depending on where you live, it's a big city, you may have the trams, but the train and the TGV train, a TGV train. That's they're like fast train from going to, like, you can go from the south to the north with that train. Uh, Really nice. Transportation is perfect. Great apps. They have excellent apps that go with the transportation. So when a train is delayed, you can get a refund. And that's really nice. Efficient healthcare with great technology. The healthcare is good. I wouldn't say it's perfect. Oh, well, we'll get into that later. I'm under the likes. But the healthcare is good. Very fast. Technology is used. You go in, you take your card, your health card, your ID, scan it on a scanner, like a copier that sends it to the clerk, and your prescription. And then you go in and you just wait. I mean, it's not really long if you go at your appointment schedule time. And then after that, you come out and see the clerk, or you see the clerk beforehand. Go in, get your x-rays, whatever you need, come out, see the clerk again, and you're off. So it's more efficient. I like France because of the good food. Excellent food, really good. And it depends on where you're at. If you're in a small village, you may not have as diverse food choices. And that's the one thing I don't like, because they don't have the diversity with the people. Because the people are going to gravitate to the big cities. More diverse people will gravitate to the bigger cities. So I miss that. Calm environment. Pretty calm because they don't have guns like the U.S. So it's pretty calm. There can be crimes. Usually if it's a crime, it's a stabbing or something like that. It's usually a stabbing, because the worst crime is with a knife here, pretty much. Respect for the elderly. They do respect their elderly. And you see it when they offer you a seat on the tram or a bus. Really on the tram. If it's crowded, they may offer an elderly person a seat. I don't see them helping as much if they're stuck getting off, or can't move their luggage, or can't move their basket. I don't see that, but they do get up and let them have their seat, which is nice. And they help them when in need, usually when in need. I think sometimes they're a little bit scared, though, to help people. One thing that people don't know about who come here because the medical is so cheap. Well, I'm not going to say so cheap. I'm going to say less than U.S. What they don't realize, and what I realize, is that a lot of the doctors are not accepting patients. You don't know it until you get here. And you'll be looking for a doctor, and he's like, not accepting, not accepting, not accepting. And you're like, well, how do I find a doctor? I've seen a lot of people have a problem with that. I had a problem with it. And then I just got an online doctor that I talked to online. And then he talks to me about my health and everything like that, and gives me prescriptions. I go get the exams done, which is so different. I go and get everything done and get my prescriptions. So you will find, if you come to France, you're going to have a difficult time finding a physician that can see you in the office. At least I had that problem in Montpellier in the south of France. A lot of the doctors are not accepting patients. Now, I had some referrals from friends in Toulouse for dentists. Great. I had a great dentist. She had a beautiful office. Easy to get in for a dentist. It was pretty easy. There is a division between the races. I should say people from different countries, hierarchy level. I noticed that here. Of course, it's the English think they're at the top, even in France. Then it's the French. Then it is probably the Americans. And then it goes to everybody from North Africa or the Romanovs, which are the gypsies for Americans who don't know that. And saying gypsy is a negative thing. It's like the N word for Black Americans. So that's our hierarchy here, and it is obvious, very obvious. And that is something I'm not used to, and I'm not used to the pretentiousness from some of the people from other countries. Very pretentious. I'm better than you. I want to ask you questions, but I don't want to get involved with you. That I'm just like, no, I'm not used to that. Passive aggressive behaviors. That does not work with me. Okay. And I see that as a French thing. There's a passive aggressive, I always liken it to the song by the Temptations, Smiling Faces. It's where you have people who seem nice, but they're not. And I'm finding out that a lot of people know this. People who live here and they're from other countries and they know this. I've heard so many people say just fake. They don't believe the behaviors. It's a passive aggressive. It's nice, nasty. I'm going to be nice to find out about you. Then I'm going to say, why don't you know French? You should know French by now. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But they're nice in the beginning. Passive aggressive. Very passive aggressive. Very passive aggressive. And I really believe it. The Temptation song is the epitome, Smiling Faces of what I experienced in France. So I've heard from a lot of people, they ask me, why did you run away from the U.S.? And I have to laugh because I never ran away. I have always been traveling. I have traveled to Italy, Paris. Italy, Paris, the Caribbean. There was somewhere else. Oh, Mali, Africa. And I did this years ago in the 90s, folks. Oh, London. I can't think of where else. I was jumping around so much in my 30s with regard to travel. Plus, what people don't know, my fixation with French comes from my grandmother, who is Caribbean. And evidently, when she died right after I was born, I think. And I think she was speaking to me in French because it always stuck with me. Even as a kid in high school, beyond, beginning of college, languages have always stuck with me. And I think it was because of her, even though I didn't know her. I really would believe she was speaking to me because I kept saying, what is this fixation on French? So for those who say, hey, why did you come to France? That's why. Plus, I had been here before. I knew about the racism. I knew about how France was, but I didn't know it deeply, which is why you must take the time and spend time in a country, not just travel and visit. When you travel and visit, it's like dipping your toe in the water and taking it out and going, oh, that's so cool. But when you actually live there, it's like actually getting in the pool and swimming for an hour or so. And then the water warming, you get in, it's cold, the water warms up, you see if you like it, you know when you get tired of it, you can see everything. But traveling to a place and just hanging out, Airbnb-ing it for a little while does not tell you about everything. So another thing I learned, this is relating to men. In France, I've heard that if you kiss someone, they think that it's instantly a relationship. So you have to be very careful about that. You need to know the rules of dating in these different countries. The rules of interaction. I shouldn't say dating because a kiss is just interaction. Because in the U.S., we need more than that. We need to go out, dinner, wine, dine, dating for months. There is no just a kiss, okay? So that is important. I also learned that I call the Europeans in France, I call the French men, some of them, not all of them. I call a lot of the French men the Pee Wee Hermans of Europe. Now, my friends started laughing when I said that, but the Pee Wee Hermans of Europe. only, and I'm saying the Pee Wee Herman, not on the TV show with kids. I'm talking about the one in the theater masturbating. And I'll tell you why. I had stalking. I had married men coming after me after I've been here 2 weeks in this town, Béziers. And I think you find it in the small towns. I had stalking, married man coming after me, another one driving up in a car after I've been here 2 weeks, another one outside my door who's married, listening into my conversations. Forgot to put that in there. And it was crazy, folks, let alone crazy. A lot of you are like, what? The stalking was a teacher, French teacher, who was kind of intimidated because I was educated and I was an English teacher. So I'm kind of wondering about the French teachers, what type of skills they have, or if they just came off the street, because that was a problem for a lot of the French teachers, me being an English teacher. So that was a problem. He decides to park in front of my house a mile almost away from the school. Now, a lot of people do that because they don't want to pay $2 for parking. Yes, folks, probably $2 or $3, not that much for parking. I don't think it's more than that. So he parked a mile away and parked in front of my house so that he could go back to the French class and tell them every morning that he saw me walking my dog. Wow, that is big news. I complained, told them about their little mouse acting crazy and stalking, and proceeded to leave. I found another school, since I'm on my way out of France. I found another school in Washington, D.C. that was more professional. And I must say, folks, we're paying a lot of money for this. A lot of money. So you're paying $300, $1,000 for, could go into the thousands after you've been there 2-3 months for French classes. Then I had, the first 2 weeks I was here, I had an old man, pull over in his car and decide to get out. I thought he was a neighbor because he parked his car. And he came up to me and said, I want your number. I want your number. And I'm like, what? What? And he's talking to me like he knows me. And I had to somehow keep walking past my building so this fool would not follow me and stalk me. He wanted my number and he told me he was in love with me. I'd only been in town 2 weeks. What is it? It's got to be my color, because there's nothing else you know about me. The fetishization of Black people, sexual, is craziness. I do understand how Josephine Baker became so popular here with her banana dance. I do, but she did turn it around. To me, she's like the Cardi B of the, was it 40s? I don't know when she came around. To me, she's like Cardi B. She made something out of nothing, but it was because of the sexual fetishization of women, Black women. Because I had people after 2 weeks, married men, talking to me when I would go to their restaurant and then acting like they didn't know me when their wife was around. I'm like, why? I'm not interested in you. You shouldn't be interested in me because you know nothing about me. What is going on? Only thing you see is my color. So that must be it. That must be it. So it's really interesting. You really have to get to know. Sorry, guys. You really have to get to know where you live. Okay. I had a married man outside my door trying to hear what is going. He was a neighbor. Didn't know I was looking at him when he was walking out. So he was outside my door listening. He heard me on the phone. So I'm thinking, what would a married man want to listen to me for? But I think he was more racist than anything. The stuff is just crazy, folks. So you have to be very careful. You have to find out. This is something you cannot research. You cannot research this. You will not know this until you live there. But I must tell you, I only found this in the small town Béziers I was in. Didn't have this experience in Montpellier or Toulouse, bigger cities. Did not have this experience in bigger cities. And this made me think about the lady in France who was living with her husband, and he was renting her out to men. He was drugging her and letting the people in town come and have sex with her. So you probably heard that on the news. She did prosecute her husband. But I'm like, in a small village, in a small village and nobody went to her. If that happened in the U.S., the woman would be screaming at that woman. She would know what was going on before everything was over, because the women would tell her off, be like, how you let all these men come in here? These people, like, smiling faces, they didn't say a word. They probably just talked about her behind her back, didn't say a word, because the men were talking. So all these men, young, old, she kept getting venereal diseases, thinking she had Alzheimer's, a new onset Alzheimer's. And in actuality, she had a disgusting husband who was drugging her and letting the village people rape her. Okay, look it up. But once you live in these small towns, you realize you got to be careful where you pick. You have to be very careful. I never had that problem in other parts of France, not Montpellier. Matter of fact, I was friends with a lot of guys in Montpellier because they had traveled the world. A lot of them had lived, they were French, but they had lived in the U.S. Never had that problem. French, lived in the U.S., from the Dominican Republic. I would always go to Montpellier, shoot the breeze with them, and hang out. It was nice. So you have to be very careful. Also in Toulouse, had friends there, never had a problem. I experienced more racism in Toulouse, but never had a problem in Montpellier. Not as much racism in Montpellier because you have more diversity because of the schools and the students. But it's harder to find an apartment there. Okay, love Montpellier. And it's growing and they're expanding. They're building new food halls. Loved it. I can't say anything bad about Montpellier, nor the people, because the guys were great. The guys were great there. I found craziness in Béziers. That's where my craziness began, and that's why I ended it in Béziers, because it was too much. So you really have to be careful where you're at, and this is stuff you can't research. And you have to be careful about the interaction with men and women. Know the environment, know what is expected of them or they expect out of you, because it probably will clash with what you're used to. And they don't really care. They just figure you're there for the pickings, pretty much. A negative too are the poorly built homes because they're so old. But what amazes me is that in other countries like Panama, Thailand, they're more modern. They have more modern amenities. They have air conditioning. Hallways are clean. Everything is perfect. Well, not perfect, but it's a higher standard. And it could be because the buildings are older. I do think that some of these countries are really poor simply because the buildings aren't maintained. They're not maintained at all. And I see that. And you feel that when you live in them. You really feel it. Just the basics are not being done. Now, in some places that I've lived, where the people have more money, then the buildings are nicer. So that's another negative. Another negative, but it doesn't bother me so much, as the bureaucracy. People talk about the bureaucracy, but I think it's everywhere in every country, because I'm finding out in other countries, the bureaucracy is there. The pace of things getting done is slow. You see that here. And after you get used to it and you know how to work the system, meaning you know how the system works, you start getting used to it, you know what to prepare, you know what to do ahead of time. Every country has its bad and good. That's the first thing I want to say. You just have to choose the country that fits you, what you like to do, activities, what the way you want to be treated, the type of people you want to be around. You have to figure that out and choose that best country for you.